Hey y'all, Sal's Royal Navy checking in. I am so sorry it's taken me this long, but I'm finally doing my decade in review video. You may notice that the background is a little bit different. Well, it's a beautiful day out here, so I decided I would shoot a video outside. Ah! But there's a bug. I knew that was gonna happen. I'm just gonna stick it out. I'm gonna do my best. I'm freaking terrified of bugs, but as long as they don't get too close, I'm just gonna try and stay calm here. So the 2010s were definitely one for the books. I'm just gonna do this like in chronological order. I'm gonna try not to make this a long video, but it may end up that way. Anyways, at the start of 2010, I was a freshman in high school, and frankly, I had no idea who the hell I was. I decided to go to the State School for the Deaf and the Blind because my best friend at the time was going there, and she had finally convinced me. So I started going up there actually around this time of year. It was like early March. And it was hard to be that far away from home, but I'm glad I did it. It taught me a lot of important things, most of all, how to navigate the internet. And I met a lot of really cool people, and I gained a greater appreciation for my home and my family, you know, because I only got to see them, you know, the school was like 6 hours away by bus, and they would take us home, like, I believe it was every other weekend. So, and I'm a homebody, so that was kind of rough, but it was okay. But then when I went back in the fall for my sophomore year, it was like a switch flipped. I didn't want to go there anymore, and I didn't realize it until we were already there getting my stuff unpacked, and I was like, I basically told my parents, like, don't leave. I don't want to, you know, I don't want to do this. And, you know, they thought that it would go away, but it didn't. That was my first experience with really bad anxiety, and it kept happening. And after a couple of weeks, they got me re-enrolled at my local high school, and I came back home. Don't get me wrong, I missed everybody up there and stuff, but it was better for me to be back here. Sorry, that's one of the neighbor's turkeys. So for the next year or so, things were pretty, you know, normal, just school and friends and whatnot, even though I didn't really have a whole lot of friends at the high school that I went to, mostly my fault, but, you know, things were progressing well. Until fall of 2011, I started having leg pain, and long story short, an old fracture in my leg had opened back up, and I needed to have an osteotomy done, which is basically they cut the bone and reshape it and then put some metal in there to hold it in place. And they sensed similar problems coming with the other leg, so they decided to just do both legs at the same time. So I basically, both my legs were out of commission, and that was fun. Not really, but it was interesting. I believe I was like non-weight bearing for like 6 weeks, and because it was with both legs, I couldn't stand or I couldn't do anything. Yeah, actually, it might have been closer to 8 weeks. I can't remember. So I basically had to learn to walk again, and you know, it took me a while to get back to my, you know, usual strength and activity, and I don't think I've ever quite been the same since. Like swinging kind of lost its appeal after that because it hurt my hips. You know, I never quite, I didn't fully recover, or I did, but I didn't have the same amount of like strength and stamina that I had before. So 2012 started, or well, 2012 started with me still mostly bedridden, and you know, by the time my junior year was over, I had pretty much recovered. I was still using wheelchairs when I would go to school or for long distances, but I could walk around the house and stuff. So my senior year started, and I was terrified. because I had no idea. Like, I had an idea of what I wanted to do in college, but at the same time, I wasn't sure that that was what I really wanted. And, you know, it was just going into the unknown, and I've never liked the unknown. And then, in October of 2012, I lost my dad in a hunting accident. Hi, kitty. Long story short, he was getting out of his tree stand, and he fell and didn't survive. So that gave a whole new layer to the whole unknown thing. You know, because my dad was always the very calm type. And, I mean, not that my mom can't be calm in certain situations, but, you know, she admits that he was, you know, he was kind of her, he was definitely the calm one. And, you know, I was almost 18 when it happened, and that was really rough. So, like, the whole rest of that year into 2013 was just my family and I trying to find our new normal. I will say, you know, they say that grief gets easier, and it does in some ways, but you don't get over it. You just learn to live with it. But I do know that he is still out there watching over me, and, you know. But anyways, so 2013, I started college. 2013 was actually a really good year for me. I graduated high school. I went to my first Rihanna concert. I went to my first Selena Gomez concert and actually met Selena. I started college. My mom, my sister, and I, and our best childhood friend went to Florida, basically for our senior trip. And yeah, it was a pretty dang good year. 2014 was pretty uneventful. I discovered Lorde and listened to her music all the time, and eventually went to go see her in the fall of that year. Fall of 2014 was when I started living in the college dorm, which was not as terrifying as I thought it would be. That's probably because I got on anxiety medication right before I moved in, because I knew that moving would probably trigger my anxiety, so I decided to be ahead and, you know, get on medication, and that worked perfectly. I mean, of course, I was a little bit, you know, shaky and a little scared at first, but I actually did very well, and my roommates were really nice. And then at the beginning of 2015, well, no, in the summer of 2014, I had to have a surgery to have a screw in my left leg replaced. It wasn't removed. It was just, what happened was, it was a little too long, and it was bothering the muscles that it was touching. So what they did was they took out that screw and put in a slightly shorter one. And knock on wood, I haven't had any trouble with it since. Now, the beginning of 2015 was when things really started to kind of fall apart. Started out, I was going to have my wisdom teeth out, which sucks. And then my leg started hurting, and long story short, they found out that I had a fracture in my right femur, and that they were going to have to do another surgery. I guess there was something that some part of the bone that they couldn't cover during the osteotomies in 2011, so they were going to have to go back and fix that and put new hardware in there and all that. So yeah, that's, you know, they went in and did that in March of 2015, which again was shortly after my wisdom teeth surgery in February of 2015. And it took me probably, I'm not sure exactly how long it took me to recover, but probably 4 months or so. And then I go back to the dorms in the fall of 2015, only to get hit by some serious anxiety. It's weird because, like I said, in 2014, it was easier than I had expected, but then in 2015, when I already knew what to expect, I don't know what the hell happened. I mean, part of it may have been we had just gotten this new kitten right before I moved into the dorm, and, like, maybe part of it was I didn't want to be separated from her. I don't know. So that was, you know, for the first week or so, I was just anxious and depressed and just not in a good state of mind. But thankfully, that was, I got in contact with my family doctor, and he increased my dosage of anxiety medicine, which, you know, worked. So things kind of leveled out, and then December of 2015 rolls around, and my leg is absolutely killing me. We got x-rays, and they couldn't see anything obvious wrong with it, so we sort of agreed that it was probably a small fracture. There wasn't really a whole lot to be done about that, so I just stayed off of it, but that meant that I had to drop out of college for the spring 2016 semester. Now, I had already dropped out for the spring 2015 semester, I had gone for a month or so in early 2015, but then I had to drop out because of that leg surgery that I was talking about a few minutes ago, so I had to drop out again in spring of 2016. But then, and then, oh God, 2016 was a write-off, I think, for everyone. So I got this headache. I believe it started in January, and it just would not go away, no matter what we did. And I remember I had like a CAT scan at an MRI. I was trialed on a couple of different types of medication that didn't work. Eventually, my neurologist found a medicine that did work. So the headache finally started to go away. Mind you, this was like a 5-month headache, just nonstop. And some of the medications that my family doctor had put me on for it just turned me into a zombie. Like, one of them I actually started calling my zombie pills. And then, after my headache went away, I fell going downstairs and hurt my right shoulder. We're pretty sure that it was a small fracture that just didn't show up on x-ray. And that hurt like crazy. I'm trying to watch my words here. Shoulder injuries are like the worst. So I was, and this was right before I was due to go back for the fall 2016 semester, so I had to drop out of that semester as well. Now, if you drop out for 2 semesters in a row at this college, you're no longer enrolled. So I was, after that, I was no longer a student at that university. And that whole thing took a toll on me mentally, so, September and October of 2016, I had a lot of anxiety issues again, a lot of depression issues, but those eventually got smoothed over just in time for me to have what we're pretty sure was a seizure and dislocate my left shoulder, and somehow or other there was a fracture in my right femur, and the plate and screws that had been placed during the operation in March of 2015 had come loose. And they were actually pulling out of the bone, and I could feel, if I touched my leg, I could feel a knot where that plate was. And you're not supposed to be able to feel hardware like that, but I could. Like I said, nobody was here when it happened, but I kind of blacked out, and then when I woke up, I was in severe pain. So we're pretty sure that I had a seizure. Now, I think the plate and screws may have been knocked loose when I fell and hurt my shoulder back in August of that year, because I do remember falling on my right leg and having a nice sizable bruise on my thigh, but at the time I didn't really think anything of it. So I had to have another surgery on that leg in November of 2016, which meant that I missed Thanksgiving with my family. I had the surgery the day before Thanksgiving, and we had to drive down to Nashville to have the surgery done. So, none of my family could come and see me, which, not that they would have if they could have. But, I was in the hospital from that for a few days, so we come back home, and, it took me, I believe it was like almost 3 months before I could stand independently again. And then, right as I was starting to get back up on my feet, I had another seizure, which we know for sure was a seizure because my mom was right there, and hurt something in my leg again, and they told me that the next step would be to have a total hip replacement done. Now, it took like 2 months for them to get that, they got it scheduled pretty quickly, but it wasn't scheduled until like the end of April, and then they rescheduled it to May the 5th, which it's a long story. So for a couple of months, there wasn't a whole lot I could do because I was in a lot of pain, and I couldn't walk very well. I could walk using a walker, but it just, it sucked. So I finally had the hip replacement surgery, and recovery from that took longer than it should have because there were a couple of small complications during the procedure. So that entire summer, I basically spent inside, which really, really sucks. Summer is literally the worst time to get hurt. You know, so I finally bounced back from that, and things, you know, for the most part, were actually going really, really well throughout 2018. You know, I did have, you know, a couple of small setbacks with, like, you know, my shoulder went out once again, and they put me into physical therapy for that, and I think I had a couple of instances of, like, tendonitis in my hip, which hurts like crazy, but it's not a huge deal. You know, so, but in 2018, I had a surgery to have a few teeth pulled. Just, you know, some of them just had cavities that were really deep. You know, they were either broken or decayed down into the root, and they were starting to hurt. So, yeah, they pulled them out. And, of course, that wasn't that big of a setback, but it was still irritating. You know, so the rest of 2018 was pretty uneventful. And then 2019 rolled around. At the end of 2018, I found out that my sister was expecting, and I was really excited. So, you know, when 2019 came, when 2019 came around, I was like, you know what, I'm going to work out, I'm going to work on myself, and I'm going to be the best person I can be for my niece or nephew. I didn't know what the gender of her baby was at that point, so that's exactly what I did. You know, I exercised multiple times a week. I went and spoke to a therapist, just, you know, I did everything I could to work on myself. And March of 2019 was actually when Queenie and I got together. Now, if you don't know who she is, go watch my last video titled, I'm Married, Kinda. And then, in June of 2019, right before my niece was born, I tripped getting onto a treadmill and broke both legs. Now, I was supposed to be my niece's nanny after my sister went back to work after having her, but obviously after an accident like that, that wasn't going to happen. It sucked physically, but it sucked even more mentally. You know, because like I said, things had been going so well. You know, but I finally, you know, and once I recovered from the initial mental sort of breakdown of, oh my God, this sucks, I was like, you know what, I'm just going to keep doing what I have been, just work on myself and do my best to get back up on my feet, which is exactly what I did. It took me, I believe it was like 2.5 months before I was walking independently again, which, you know, as you've heard, is not as long a recovery time as I'd had before. So, yeah, that was all the crazy and bad stuff that happened in the 2010s, but there was good stuff. As I hinted at earlier, you know, I did, you know, I went on a vacation that I will never forget. We went to Florida. We did Disney World. We did Universal, which the first stop we made in Universal was Harry Potter World. Literal dream come to life right there. We did SeaWorld. Like I said, I graduated from high school. I attended, you know, the first concert that I went to in the 2010s was a Rihanna concert in April of 2013, and that sort of gave me the concert bug, so to speak. I wanted to do more concerts. I wanted to go to more concerts. So I went to see Selena Gomez in October of 2013, and I actually met her after the show. And I saw Lorde for the first time in September of 2014, and then I saw Selena again in June of 2016, and I saw Lorde again, I saw Lorde again in April of 2018. And I have learned a lot about myself this last decade. I've had to go through things that, you know, some people will never have to, but in that I've grown as a person. Like I said, I've learned a lot. I've experienced a lot, and, you know, it like I said at the beginning, the 2010s were one for the books, but not necessarily in a bad way. Even the bad things that happened taught me things, and they made me stronger as a person. So, you know, overall, it was pretty good, and nobody can say that it was a boring decade, at least not for me. I may do a video detailing my highlights as a fangirl, like, for example, like my encounters with Selena Gomez and, you know, stuff like that. Or my encounter with her. I think I just said encounters. But, you know, that would take a long time, and I feel like this video has gotten long enough already, so, yeah. Thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys enjoyed this video, please leave a like. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. I'm so excited. I'm finally over 50 subscribers, you guys. And I will try to upload on a more regular basis. Like I said, if you would like to hear an account of my life as a fangirl, by all means, let me know. I would be more than happy to share that with you guys. So I hope you guys have an excellent day, and I will see you soon.